Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth and final session of our webinar series on Dynamics 364 and the Power Platform. Today, we'll begin by discussing how you can embed AI directly into your products, and then how you can gain insights from analytics about your data. As a review, this has been a 4-part course in building business applications using Power Platform basics and fundamentals. And it's been designed to give you experience building business solutions, including setting up your own environment, building applications using low-code capabilities, automating business processes, and enriching business data with AI and analytics. This series has been based on a real-world scenario that provides you with a tool set that will enable you to complete business requirements with a modern approach. So if you haven't already, let's go ahead and meet the team that has led you along in this 4-part webinar series, starting with myself. So hello, everybody. My name is Kelsey Bloomquist. I'm a product solution architect on the ISV success team in the Microsoft Business Applications Group. I focus on helping our partners build their business solutions on our platform and give technical guidance as they build out their big business solutions. Throughout this series, I've talked about how we have superpowers, and my superpower was building Power Platform cookies. And so today, as a special surprise, I decided to show you some of the cookies that I had created earlier that have these Power Platform logos. So you can see here I have Kelsey's cookies, and they've got all 4 of the Power Platform products. We've got Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Virtual Agents. So really neat. It was a really fun project, and I just wanted to share with you guys all of the neat logo cookies I made. Actually created the stencils myself, learned how to airbrush that color on there, and start to finish learned how to package it as well to give out to my teammates. So really fun project. And if you guys are curious, maybe I'll do a demo on how to make Power Apps cookies someday. So with that, I want to send it over to my coworker James so that he can introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Kelsey. Hi, everyone. My name is James Bamford. I am also a solution architect on the ISV Connect team, along with Kelsey. For my superpower, I may not be able to make super tasty cookies like Kelsey can, but I am able to make pretty awesome Power Platform paper footballs. So this is actually one of my first designs. Here I'm trying to experiment a little bit with the creasing around the Power Apps logo, as you may be able to tell. This is another model that I've created, which I actually call the JB5000. And here the Power Automate logo actually provides the extra boost that you need to get those really long field goal attempts in a game of paper football. And finally, my favorite model, this model I actually spent a whole, over about probably a minute making, but this one really gives me what I need to know from an analytical perspective to figure out my opponent's weaknesses and how I'm going to beat him or her in a game of paper football. If you're interested in more paper footballs, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to show you more. But back to the series. Let's go ahead and let's talk about some expectations for today. So as we mentioned last week, and pretty much for the last 3 weeks, the goal for this series is not only to teach you how to utilize Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform to quickly build business applications, but to show you how to turn great ideas into impactful solutions. The series is for the citizen developer who's getting started creating business applications, all the way to the pro developer who is looking to minimize the automation development tasks and everyone in between. So today, we're going to show you all you need to know about the Power Platform and how it can provide simple methods for most users to be able to create, automate, analyze, or assist their data in ways that should have never been before possible to the average worker. So looking at today's agenda is going to focus on AI Builder and Power BI. First, we're going to give you an overview of AI Builder. We'll show you all the different custom AI models that are out there, as well as the pre-built AI models that are out there. And then we'll show you a demo of how you can use one of those AI models and integrate it into your Power App. After that, Kelsey is going to provide us with an overview of Power BI, and she's going to talk about data modeling and showing us how to create and share awesome visualizations, and then also being able to embed those visualizations in our Power App. Then finally, we'll end today with a recap of our overall Power Platform demo scenario that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into AI Builder. So when we look at AI Builder is the low-code, no-code capability that spans the entire Power Platform and Dynamics 365 apps. With AI Builder, you're able to easily infuse AI into Power Apps, Power Automate, and the Common Data Service. Because AI is accelerating the digital transformation for every industry, organizations that incorporate AI far outpace their competitors. Now, you don't even need a programming or data science background to be able to use AI. AI Builder enables business users to tailor AI to their specific needs. So you don't need any of the data scientists or pro developers to make your apps and processes more intelligent. And because it's customizable, AI Builder can help a broad range of industries such as retail, manufacturing, banking, and more. AI Builder has a wide range of capabilities that mostly fall into three main buckets. The first bucket being prediction, the second language, and the third being vision. And all those capabilities are infused throughout the Power Platform, since AI Builder is accessible from within Microsoft Power Apps and Power Automate. It's actually embedded right there in the application themselves, and we'll see how that works when we get to our demo and how we can infuse AI Builder into our Power Apps and easily create and train our first AI model. AI Builder is divided up into two different types of models. The first one being custom models. These models are available for you to choose based upon your business needs. So different AI models are designed for various business scenarios. Custom AI models are models that you build choosing a model type in AI Builder and then training the model to do specific AI tasks using your data. Here, you select the model type, provide the data, build, and train your own unique AI model, and then you can use or share that model to other members of your team. You can build your own custom AI model by using the following AI model types of prediction, form processing, object detection, and others. We also offer pre-built models that you can use for either Power Apps or Power Automate. With the pre-built model, you get an AI model that Microsoft has built and trained to do a specific task for you. So you don't need to build or train the model yourself to be able to use it. Sentiment analysis, key phrase extraction, and text recognition are just a few of the AI models that are available for you to start using. So now we have a pretty good idea of the different custom and AI and pre-built AI models that are available. Let's dive into the custom models and double click into those and see what's more available. So the first custom-built model that I want to talk about is the one centered around prediction. You can use the prediction AI model to explore any business question that's answered as one of two available options, such as yes or no, true or false, pass or fail, or go or no go, just for examples. So something would be, an example would be like, is this machine likely to break down? Or which customers might not renew their subscriptions this month? Or which leads might purchase a product or service? Binary classification uses historical data to predict whether new data falls into either one of these two categories. So you can use these insights to develop actionable intelligence for your business. And you can use the binary classification AI model to explore any business question that is answered in one of those two questions. The next model we want to talk about is forms processing. You can use AI Builder form processing to create models that use machine learning technology to identify and extract key value pairs in table data from form documents. You train your model by defining the information to be extracted from your forms, and you only need 5 form documents to get started. You can quickly get accurate results tailored to your specific content, and with AI Builder, you don't need a lot of manual intervention or data science expertise to get going on this. The third main custom model that we want to discuss today is object detection. Object detection lets you count, locate, and identify selected objects within any image. You can use this model in Power Apps to extract information from pictures you take with your camera. You can also use it with different business scenarios from marketing, social media, quality control, to do things like recognize defective products, count objects in store shelves, filter out content against my policy, or automatically classify pictures. To do it, you simply select the object names, upload the images, tag the images, and then train the model. So now we've got a pretty good idea of the custom AI models that are out there. Let's touch on some of the pre-built models that AI Builder has to offer. The first pre-built model that we want to talk about here is text recognition. Text recognition tags any snippet of text on historical data that you provide. So with it, you can streamline your business by automatically tagging new text. And this will do things like classify user feedback, detect new opportunities from emails, moderate posts or comments in a discussion forum, or even detect trends from social activity. Another pre-built model that we want to talk about is key phrase extraction, which is a pre-built model that identifies the main points in a text document. So for example, if someone had left a restaurant review that said something like, the food was delicious and the service was great, then the model would return the main talking points of food and great service. The model can also extract a list of key phrases from unstructured text documents if you wanted to. Sentiment analysis is a pre-built model that detects positive or negative sentiment in text data. So you can use it to analyze social media, customer reviews, or any text data that you're interested in. Sentiment analysis evaluates text input and gives scores and labels at a sentence and document level. So the scores and labels can either be positive, negative, or neutral. And at the document level, there can also be a mixed sentiment label, which has no score. The sentiment of the document is then determined by aggregating those sentence scores and adding it all up. Finally, the last model we wanted to mention to you today is BOIOM, or Bring Your Own Model. With this model, you can leverage your own data science assets by bringing external models into AI Builder. So these may be models and assets you already have, so you can simply just register your model endpoints with AI Builder and consume the model in either Power Apps, Power Automate, or the Common Data Service. If you're interested in learning more about AI Builder, what we've already talked about today, Microsoft offers several free hands-on labs on our Microsoft Docs website, and they feature many of the different AI models that we have talked about today. So go ahead and navigate over there, and you can learn even more about features like object detection, prediction, category classification, forms processing, or even our business card reader. All right. So now that we have a pretty good idea of what AI Builder is about and what it can do, let's go ahead and put some of that into practice. So for our demo today, using AI Builder, we're going to continue our demo scenario by continuing our Spotlight series on Lamna Healthcare. And in this scenario, we're going to explore an issue where Lamna Healthcare has received a bunch of electronic medical records for new patients from those patients' former healthcare provider. These electronic medical records contain allergy and tolerance information that Lamna wants to quickly upload to their system to cut down on things like data entry. So to accomplish this requirement, what we're going to do is we're going to use the forms processor AI model that we talked about, create a model for it in AI Builder, and then snap that model into our Power App so that Lamna can quickly read in these documents, create them as records in the Common Data Service, and relate them back to the patient. So to do that, let me go ahead and share my screen right here. And there we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you guys is an example of one of these documents. So this is an example of the allergy and tolerance record that Lamna is receiving from Corey Crumpton's old healthcare provider, Fabricam Health Clinic. You can see that's pretty basic, but it does contain some information that we want to use and create in the common data service. Most notably, it has the name of the patient, it has the name of the allergy, and it also has a allergy code attached to it. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go to log into our Power Platform tenant, which I've already done right here. So I can go ahead and, as we learned already, I can go to Power Apps, and I can access AI Builder right from here. So I can go ahead and expand AI Builder, and then I can select Build. And then from there, I have a whole bunch of different things I can choose from. I can go ahead and build a model for a category classification, entity extraction, object detection, prediction, etc. But for this particular scenario, I'm going to go ahead and I want to use form processing. With this, I'm going to go ahead and give my new AI model a name. I'm going to call it allergy form processor. So we can see right here, we'll need at least 5 documents with the same layout to get started. And luckily, I have that. So I'll go ahead and click Create. And the first thing it's going to ask me to do is add those documents. So I'll go ahead and select Add Documents. And you can see I have the option to either add those documents from locally on my machine, SharePoint, or Azure Blob Storage. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to upload them from my local machine. All right. So I have a whole bunch of documents right here that I've been sent from Fabricam. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select 5 documents. Click Open, and then I'm going to begin uploading those documents. All right, so we have our 5 documents up here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select each one of them. And then from here, I'm going to click Analyze. So this is actually going to take a little while. You can see right here that I can improve the performance of my model by adding more than 5 documents. But for the sake of time right here, I'm just going to select the bare minimum to make sure this analyzation process doesn't take way too long. While that's going, let's go ahead and let's jump back over into Power Apps and let's take a look at what those documents look like in our Dynamics 365 Healthcare Accelerator. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and this is going to load my model app. We've looked at all this before, and here we can see my allergy intolerances right here. So here I have a long list of allergy intolerances, and I'll go ahead and I'll open up the most recent one created for Christopher Hibbard. And right from the beginning, we can see a lot of fields that we're already using. So name being the name of the allergy. We have our patient, Christopher. We have the code as well that we're bringing in. And then we also have a couple of other fields that we're not bringing in, but that's fine. We can go ahead and we can add these later. Maybe when the doctor interacts with the patient, the doctor can confirm whether this allergy is still applicable, if it's still high risk, or what have you, after that new patient has been examined. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like inside the system once we actually use our forms processor and upload the document through our Power App into the Common Data Service. This is what it will look like through the model app. All right. So it looks like our AI Builder has finished analyzing the forms. So now I can go ahead and select the fields for the forms. All right, so here we have in some of our fields right here. So I have my patient, which I'll check, the name, which I'll check, and I have the code, which I will also check. So I have 3 fields selected. I'm going to click Done. And now that I'm done right there, I'll go ahead and I'll click Next, and I can begin training my model. And we'll see right here that this actually doesn't take too long. This goes pretty quickly. Of course, depending upon the complexity of how many fields and the forms and things like that, that may take a little while longer. But we have a pretty basic document that we're scanning in right here with only 3 fields, so it was pretty quick. All right, so now that my model is trained, I can go ahead and I can click publish, and I can begin using it in my Power App. So this will just take a few seconds right here. All right, so now I can go ahead and I can begin using my model. And when I click Use Model, I have the option to either create it with a new app or a new flow. I actually have my app already created that I'm going to be using, so let's go ahead and snap back over there. So I'll go back to my list of apps right here. I have my AI Builder demo app that I'm going to be using today, and I've actually already loaded that here for the sake of time. So a lot of this should look pretty familiar to everybody. You know, we have our day, which shows our appointments for the day. We also have our, I'll actually push play right here. We also have our patients, which shows a list of all of our patients, and we can search for any patient right here based upon their name. We have our list of medication requests that have been keyed in, and then we also have our reports, which we're going to be looking at in our next demo with Power BI. All right, so the first thing I want to do here is I want to create a new screen that will allow the user to be able to quickly scan in these new medical records and upload them to CDS and relate them to the patient. So I actually already got started on that a little bit right here. So what I did is I created a new allergy upload screen. And what I've done is I've plopped in a couple of fields on the canvas. I plopped in some labels, some text inputs that are going to receive the information from our forms processor. And I've also added a back button and a save button, which I need to add some logic to. Right now they don't do anything. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is I actually want to go over to my patient details screen. So inside this patient details screen, we have all of our patient information. The last time we were here, we added a new button to add a medication request. Here we're actually going to add one more button. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag it right there. And this is going to be our upload allergy button. So first I'll rename it. And then on the select of it, well, first we'll give it a good name. We'll call this upload allergy for short. And then on the select of this button, we're going to do a couple things. So the first thing we want to do is we want to navigate to the allergy upload screen. We'll give it a fade. And then the next thing I want to do is I actually want to create a variable called current contact, which will pass over the information from my selected contact over to my new allergy upload screen. And we'll see why I want to do that here in a few minutes. So first we're going to go ahead and gallery from our patient list screen, and we're going to get the selected option. Close that. And there we go. All right, so now we have our method of getting to our new screen. We can go ahead and start adding the magic, so to speak, to our allergy upload screen. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to want to add our AI builder component to the screen, which is really, really easy. So we simply go over to custom. I'm sorry, we go over to AI builder and select form processor. So once we do that, we see our allergy form processor that I just created. So I go ahead and select that model, and boom, there we go. We're ready to go. All right, so now we've added the form processor to the form. We want to go ahead and we want to hook up these text boxes to receive in the data from our forms processor. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to, one by one, go to the default for each one of these text boxes, and we're going to relay it and link it to our forms processor that we've just plopped on the screen. So for good hygiene, I'll go ahead and I will call this form processor allergy. All right. So now for our default, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say form processor allergy dot fields dot patient. So we can see that the fields we've trained in our model are right here in IntelliSense for us to choose from. So I can go ahead and grab that patient right there, and I can go ahead and relay that to my patient text field. So I'm going to go ahead and go down the line here and do the same thing. So I'll go ahead and grab the form processor allergy dot fields dot name. And then finally, we'll get the code. Okay, great. So now we've got our text inputs all hooked up. I'm going to go ahead and begin my logic for how I'm going to read in the allergy intolerance record into the common data service. So what I want to do here is I actually want to add some logic to make sure that the allergy record selected by the user matches the patient that is selected in my app. And to do that, I'm going to actually throw some logic on my save button to prevent the user from accidentally uploading a record that doesn't match. So I'll click my save button right here, and I'm going to move over from my onSelect property to my display mode property. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some logic. So you may have noticed inside of our data that the patient record is all in uppercase. So I want to make sure that I throw that logic in right here. So we'll say if upper, and this is where that variable that I passed over is going to come in handy. So in contact at full name, which is the full name of our patient, equals upper txt patient, which is the name of that text field, dot text. Then we'll make the button editable. Otherwise, it's going to be disabled. Great. All right, so now that we've got that logic on there, let's go ahead and begin writing our patch function, which is actually going to create the record inside of CDS when we click save. So let's switch properties right here from display mode to onSelect. And let's go ahead and start writing this. And let's bring this down a little bit right here. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to patch, which is how we get records into the system. We're going to select allergy intolerances, which is the data source that we are working with. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to patch in the defaults for the record itself. Be any like required fields that we're not actually naming, but then we're going to start naming our the fields that we want to create. So the first one is going to be patient, which is going to be our current contact variable. The next one is going to be code, which will be our txt code text field dot text. Finally, we have our name field, our txt name text box dot text. We'll close that curly brace, and we will end the function. So there we go. We're pretty much ready to start rocking and rolling here. So what we can do is we can go ahead and save this. Go back, and let's see what we have so far. So what we can do is we can go ahead and go back to our home screen, and let's navigate through the app. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our list of patients, and let's go to Bradley Minister. All right, so we have Bradley, we have all of his information right here. We can see that he already has an allergy to berberine, if you pronounce that correctly. So let's go ahead and let's upload a new allergy. So to do that, we just simply click Analyze on our Forms processor, and I'm going to select one for Trisha Potter, who is not Bradley. So this is going to bring in, it's going to analyze the document, and eventually it's going to bring in the fields. So we can see right here we have Trisha Potter, who has a peanut allergy, but my save button is not enabled. So my logic right there is working. So what I actually want to do right next is I want to go ahead and link up my back button, because there's no way right now for me to go back to my patients unless I clicked it right there. And if I click back to my patients, and let's just say I click back to Bradley, all this information is still going to be available. So what I need to do is I need to clear out all this unnecessary information from these text boxes, but also my forms processor. So let's go ahead and let's go back to our Power App, and let's add that logic. So let's go ahead and go to our back button on select. And what we want to do on select is we want to do a couple things. So we want to actually go back. So we'll throw in that back function. And then we want to use the reset function. So we're going to reset all of the text boxes. So we're going to reset txt code. We're going to reset txt name. And we're going to reset txt patient. All right, so that's going to clear out the text boxes, but I also want to revert my form processor back to 0. So I'm also going to reset my allergy. Oops. My form processor allergy. Bingo. Cool. So now that I have all that there, I can clear things out. I'm actually going to go ahead and copy all this, and I'm going to throw that on the select of my save button as well, because I want to do the same thing. All right, looks good. So let's go ahead and let's play this, and let's go ahead and just go back. And that should clear everything out. And so even if I go back to allergy upload, great, everything's cleared. All right, so that worked. Okay, so we can see that is working as expected. So let's go ahead and let's go back to our home screen. play our app. Let's find our patients, and let's go ahead and scroll down here to Trisha Potter. Okay, so we have Trisha Potter right here. She actually doesn't have any allergies or medication requests entered because she is a new patient. So let's go ahead and upload an allergy record for her that we've received from Fabricam. As I navigate to the screen, I can see that all my fields and processes are empty. So I can go ahead and I can select the document, and I'll go ahead and I'll select this peanut allergy document that was sent to us. So that's going to analyze the document. And right here, so we see a couple things. So we see that it analyzed the fields, it plopped the fields into the text fields on my Power App, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And notice that the save button is enabled once again because Trisha Potter matches the patient that I actually selected in the system. So if I go ahead and I click save, we can see my patch function worked. It cleared out the all the text boxes, and it cleared out the forms processor. So I can go ahead and I can actually go back to patients right here, and then I should go to my day. Sorry, I can go back to patients right here. Take the long way. Go back to Trisha Potter, and boom, right there. We see that we have created a brand new peanut allergy for her, and we just created that in the system just now. And with that, we are done. So just to review what we did here today, we went ahead and we went into AI Builder inside of Power Apps. We created a brand new model for our forms processor just by training it on 5 simple documents. You can train it on more than that. Again, if you want to increase the efficiency of the model, the more fields you have on the form, generally speaking, the more documents you're going to upload into AI Builder to better train the model and improve its efficiency. We went into Power Apps and we added all the necessary information that we needed to scan in those documents, which was really easy. We just went over to our AI Builder component right here. We plopped in the form processor. We took the fields from the form processor and defaulted them into these text box, which helped us build our logic. And that also helped us use the patch function to upload the document into CDS. We also threw in some good hygiene to clear out those fields after we were done. So there you have it. There is our completed demo showing us the power of AI Builder and how you can easily integrate it into your Power App. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it back over to Kelsey, who is going to talk to us about Power BI.
Thanks, James. And thank you for that insightful information on AI Builder. I think it's really great. We can embed it directly into Power Apps, and I feel, especially that form recognizer would be very usable in real world scenarios, especially places that have a lot of form documents that we're trying to now digitize. So that's really awesome. I'm now going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll continue on with the final product that we're going over in this webinar series on the Power Platform. We'll be discussing Power BI. And when we talk about Power BI, we look at the full Power Platform ecosystem. Really, this is where we analyze our data. We talked about the 4 A's of the Power Platform. With Power Apps, we act. With Power Automate, we automate. With Power Virtual Agents, we assist. And with Power BI, we really analyze that data. So this is creating those visualizations based off the data, whether it's in CDS or whether it's elsewhere. You can gather all that data, bring it together, and then gather the insights you need in order to make better business decisions. So with Power BI, you really can get any of your data, any way you want it, and anywhere you want it. So if your data lives in the cloud, if it lives on premise, you can grab that data. You can bring that into Power BI. And then when you want to share that data, you can either embed that into the web. You can also put it on premise again for your team You can put it on your mobile device. You can embed it within your own application already, live. There's multiple places you can embed it, including Teams. So, really you can get it anywhere. And when you bring it into Power BI, there's a lot of potential here. You create interactive data visualizations. It's an open, extensive ecosystem so that you can integrate with Microsoft and other third-party integrations. We have AI embedded also directly in Power BI. So as you have AI Builder within Power Apps and Power Automate, you have other AI capabilities embedded directly in Power BI. We realize there's a lot of momentum here. It's really important to be able to get those insights and act on them to make your business better. So we're doing what we can for AI innovations in that space. You also can integrate with Azure Data Services, and we can do big data prep and analytics through that if you're the pro developer. And like all of the products in the Power Platform, Power BI is also secure and compliant and an enterprise-grade platform. So when we look at the Power BI product portfolio, there really are 5 main products within Power BI. We start with the Power BI desktop. This is the free application that you use in order to author your reports and dashboards. So if you are, a business analyst or an IT developer, whoever within your space, and you want to create a report for your team, you can go ahead today, go to Power BI, download the desktop, start getting your data, transforming it the way you want and creating visualizations in just seconds. It's really easy to go ahead and author those visualizations. Now, if you want to go ahead and share it with your team, you're going to want Power BI Service. This is where you really truly share and collaborate with your team. You put those reports and dashboards up in the cloud, and then they can go create dashboards, based off your other reports and do whatever they want for themselves so they can easily gain those insights directly from their phone on the go. If you have large scale deployments, you're a very big company, you may need Power BI Premium. This has dedicated capacity, so you have that increased performance when you have a lot of data and you need that performance. If you need to share and collaborate on premises, Power BI Service Premium, those are in the cloud. But if you still are on premise or a lot of your data lives there, you can use the report server and you can still get that data and analytics for your company on premise. Now you can also embed a Power BI report or dashboard directly in your application. Now this is really great if you're a partner who, puts your application out on AppSource and you want to have those analytics side by side with your application and what it can do, right? So then whatever user is in your application can get those analytics right there and then embedded directly in your application. And if you're a partner, and you think about embedded analytics, there's really 2 ways you can see it. You're bringing your data from somewhere. Is it from your app? You bring them via connectors, it is in CDS. But where do you want it to ultimately live? Do you want this Power BI and the data to be in your own partner tenant, and then the customers use your tenant? Or do you want them to live in your customer's Power BI tenant? Because that will depend on which way you decide to go for your analytics. Now, if you want to embed directly in your own partner's tenant, you would use embedded analytics. Now, this renders within your app. It's for your app users. It uses the data within that app, and the partner can customize and build new reports and dashboards and send them out with their app updates. Now, if they want their customer to own, the application, if they want the customer to own the data, if their customer needs to customize their analytics more, if they have a wider set of users, you may want to actually package that application up as a template app, and then you ship it on AppSource so your customers can buy your package on AppSource and then embed it in wherever they need to. So if they need to then embed it within their own space, they can do that. So if you're a partner and you want to get your customer analytics, you can either embed it directly within your application, or you can create a Power BI template to ship to your customers so they can then build on top of that and embed it where they need to. So those are really the 2 big options as a partner. But you can customize and augment in any way you need, whether it's in the embedded or the packaged, and in any role as well. What's really great is we have this embedded playground. So if you want to test out some different features of Power BI embedded, you can just go really easily. I'll just spin it up right now and show you what the embedded playground looks like. So here we are. We have the Power BI embedded playground. It's on GitHub, so it's really easy to get to. And this is the sample tool. So if I want to create a sample report, a visual, a dashboard, I can go ahead and just click this try it button right here. And you can see it brought me over to this code tab, and it's showing me in different embedded tokens if I want to test embedding it somewhere. And this is the code that's running. So if I'm a pro developer and I want to do any modifications, I can do that right here within the code, and I can copy it very easily out of here. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this. And when I run it, I can view it either on desktop or phone, but it's going to show me what that visual looks like, right? This is a sample visual. So in that code, it's defined what the colors are going to look like and all of that. And I can go ahead and modify that in any case I want. And if I want to render it on a phone and see what that looks like, I can do that. Sort of a playground for you to be able to test out visuals and see what they look like before embedding them within the application. There's also a lot of documentation here for learning and showcase where, you have an interactive feature showcase to experience the new features and explore to get started in that space. So this is a really great place to come to the embedded playground if you want to play around with your options a bit more before building your own to embed. So I'll go ahead and spin back up the PowerPoint. So now I want to talk a little bit about data flows. Now, when we first introduced Power BI, you think of it in 3 different spaces. You have your data visualizations. This is where you have your reports and dashboards. Then you have your data sets. This is your BI models with your data. You have those tables where you're modeling the data. If you want to create new columns and you're using Power Query expressions in order to get the data you need, that's where you're molding the data. Then you have your connectivity. So in order to get your data, you have your connectors, you have your gateways for on-premise. These are really like the 3 main components you think of for Power BI. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a data flows layer. And what this allows us to do is that it allows us to sync CDM folders that live on Azure Data Lake storage in and out of Power BI so that you can do your data prep logic or your compute either in Power BI or in Azure Data Lake, and you can bring them back and forth between the two. Now, you have your own Azure storage account. You can bring information into your CDM folders in Azure Data Lake storage. If you have information in Power BI, you can do some data prep within Power BI, bring them into the CDM folders, mesh all that data together, bring it back out to compute into Power BI and display it. Or if you want to display it into an external tool or application, you can flow that data directly into your application using these CSV data files and these JSON model files. You also have the option, if you've been ingesting data into your external tool or application, you can do your own data prep logic. But if you then want to bring it into CDM folders, mesh it with other data and then bring it into PBI to do additional compute, you can do that, right? There's a lot of different options, whether your data is being ingested into Power BI, in your external tool, into Azure Data Lake, there's a lot of options for you to be able to flow the data between all 3 of those spaces and prep the data as needed. So when I sort of summarize that idea and data flows and why it's so important, why we have these CDM folders that live on Azure Data Lake storage, it's really because whether you're a business analyst, IT professional, data scientist, we've talked about how the Power Platform is really created for everyone. It's to empower everyone to do more. So no matter who you are, what you know, what role you have, you can use the Power Platform to help your company and get where you need to be, right? And so if you're a business analyst and you're ingesting data into Power BI, or if you're an IT professional and you're ingesting data into Azure Data Factory, and then you bring that into CDM folders, no matter what you need to do with that data, if you need to do advanced data prep, if you need to train and predict any machine learning models, if you need to model and serve in SQL Data Warehouse, you can flow that data in and out of any of these Azure services and bring them back into Power BI to then display that data in the best way possible in your visuals, so you can truly understand, those analytics that'll help you progress within your company. So a lot of power with these CDM folders living on Azure Data Lake storage, and especially if you already are on Azure. And then being able to integrate that with Power BI. So I just wanted to throw up some resources for you. There's a lot of documentation, there's guided learning, a webinar, other than this webinar as well, some that are specifically on Power BI, white papers and blogs. So some great resources for you to use that when we share these slides, you guys will have these links. And so now I wanted to do a demo to really illustrate, all the components of Power BI. And so the problem we have today, going along our series spotlight of Lamna Healthcare, the doctors who are using their patient tracker app also want patient analytics during their appointments. So one item they truly want to understand is what's the number and percentage of patients that are in a similar age group to the current patient, and I want them broken down by these following ranges, right? So I basically want to understand the percentage of patients within these age group categories. So in order to do that, I'm going to use Power BI, and I'm going to connect to our CDS data. I'm going to transform the data by adding new columns to reflect that age information that I need. And then I'm going to go ahead and create visualizations based off that data. And once I create that, I can embed that into our Teams workspace, and then I can share it and embed it within the Power App as well, so that when the doctor is using the Power App, they can directly access those analytics directly from the application. So if I go ahead and bring up Power BI. So right here, I'm in the service. I mentioned before, the service was the on cloud where you could share and collaborate, and it has a list of my workspaces. This is my personal workspace. This is everyone in the company. And this is the Lamna Healthcare workspace that I've created specifically for all the doctors. So this is the workspace I will be adding, my information to. But when I'm authoring something, a lot of times I can't get it in the service. So if I were to try to get data here, I wouldn't necessarily be able to get the data that I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin up Power BI desktop. So just give me a second, searching for it. So Power BI desktop is opening now. You can see it. And this is really has most of the power for you to be able to author these reports and dashboards. Actually, the dashboards you'll make in the service based off the reports, but you can just it's a lot easier to construct those within the desktop itself. So here's my landing space. I can sort of see I have recovered files. I've got a few other files I've been using. If I'm new to this, I probably don't have any recent files, but I'm going to go ahead and just get data. The first thing I need to do for a new project is get the data that I want to use in those visualizations. So I'll go ahead and click Get Data. And I know that the data that I'm using all lives in the common data service. Now that may not be the case for you. Maybe you have some stuff in Excel, maybe you have some stuff in SQL, tons of connections here that you can make to your data. But mine lives in the Power Platform and Common Data Service. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to go ahead and connect. And when I connect, it's going to ask me for my server URL. Now, when I get more information, it tells me this is the crm.dynamics.com URL. And I know I could get that from the admin section within my environments. I can also go to Power Apps. So if I go to make.powerapps.com and I can go look at all my apps, I know that we have the Dynamics Healthcare Accelerator installed here. And so I'm just going to click that application and have it load. And when it loads, I see the URL right here, the crm.dynamics.com. So that's sort of like a shorthand way to do it instead of going all the way into the admin centers. But so I'm going to select that URL. I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to click OK. I don't need any of the advanced settings right now. So it's now loading the server URL and seeing what data exists within that tenant. So now the navigator has appeared, and this is showing me what's in the tenant and where I can gather the data from. And I see that there's two folders. There's an entities and a systems. And I want to actually open up the entities folder. So I'm going to expand that. And this is going to give me a list of entities that are available within the Common Data Service that I can select. So, usually depending on your report and how much information, you'd probably select maybe like 6 different entities and then use those entities and their relationships to, get that data in those visualizations. For time's sake today, I'm only going to grab one table. So I'm going to grab the contact table because we know that the practitioner wanted to know patient information. And so the birth date and that patient information is going to be in the contact entity. And if I didn't know that, I could go ahead and in Power Apps, I can look at the data and I can look at those entities, kind of how we showed in the Power Apps webinar day. So I can understand more about that data and what's available and what I would need to bring into Power BI. So because there's a lot of data, it's been truncated, but I can load or I can transform. And if I load, it's just going to bring me into the base canvas. If I transform data, it'll bring me into a new space. I'll just go ahead and load this one first. So I'll click load and it'll load me into the main screen. And so when I'm doing this, it's actually pulling all of the data. It's putting together all of my tables and their steps, and then it's pulling all of the data from the actual tenant. And so sometimes depending on how much data you have, this load could take a while. If you have multiple tables, they'll all sort of be loading, in parallel so that you're not, if you have 10 different tables, you're not waiting one by one for all of those to load. So it looks like it's loaded over 200 rows. And so now I have all of my contact table. Wow, there are a lot of fields here. So you can see tons of fields within the contact table. And I guess I didn't really talk about this space. So let me just talk about this space quick. When I landed in here, this middle section is really your canvas. This is going to be where I create my report. I bring my visualizations. It's kind of like Power Apps, that WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. They have a canvas in the Canvas apps. We have a canvas in Power BI as well, sort of a working space. I'm actually selected on this first tab. You may not see it here, but this is the report. Now, if I were to go to the data tab, it would show me all of my tables and all of the data within those tables. And if I show the relationships tab, this will show me all of my tables and I can manage relationships between those tables. Now, because I only have one table today, I don't actually, need to create any of those relationships. But if I wanted to, I could pretty easily, I would be able to click manage relationships here, or I could just select something and drag it to another field in another table to, create that connection. So I can do different things, but this is the relationships tab in the model. So I go back to my data. Now, I know that I want to transform some of the data. I want to edit what it is on the back end because I don't want all of this. This isn't what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and click transform data. This is where if I hadn't clicked load, if I had clicked transform data, it would have brought me into this space. And this is an important working space. This shows us all of our queries, all of our tables, all of the columns within there, all of the applied steps within that table. So I know that this took the source from that tenant URL and it brought it in entities and systems folder. And then I navigated to the contact entity. And so those are the first 2 steps. If I go to the advanced editor here, I can see those steps also written out within, that language. So, okay, so now I have my main table and there are lots of columns here. So I'm going to go ahead and transform some of the data. And what's really important is this top command bar. This is where a lot of your options are for you to be able to transform. Do I want to remove or keep rows? Do I want to remove or, choose columns? Do I want to merge queries or append them to each other? Do I want, is this first row actually not data? Is it the headers? Do I want to move that up? So there's a lot of different things you can do, whether you want to transform columns, add columns, different things. But to start, I'm going to just choose some columns because I don't want all of these columns here. So I'm going to unselect all those and I'm going to get the columns that I think might be important. I'm going to get a contact ID because that's what identifies that specific contact. I'm going to get their full name, although we probably don't need it for the visual. I'm going to get their birth date because we have to know their age. I'm going to pull the contact type. we didn't really talk about this, but patients and practitioners are both contacts in the system. And so in order to distinguish between them, there's a contact type field, and that will identify, are they a patient, are they a practitioner, or are they even a related person? Are they not one or the other? So that's important because we actually only care about patient data, and we'll need to filter that. So, okay, so you can see it added another step where now I removed other columns, and if I click this wheel, it'll bring it right back up, and I can like select more columns if I realize that I missed any. Okay, so now I want to know what age group they're in. Well, let's start by understanding their age. I know their birth date, and what's really neat is that Power BI gives a lot of shorthand, expressions and methods for you to use. So instead of having to write some sort of expression in a new custom column, there's actually a way I can do this directly using Power BI features. So I've selected the birth date because this is the column I'm going to use, and I want to add a new column. This column, I want it to be, I want it to be their age ultimately, but how do I get there? So if I click this date drop down, I notice that there's something that says age, and the tooltip, if I can get that back to show, it says it creates a new column that contains the duration between the current local time and the values in the selected column. So if I click age, it's going to give me a number that is the duration between their birthday and today. So now I have it as a duration, but what I really want is the number that adds up to. This is probably how many minutes or days, maybe days I am old, but I really want to know how many years I am old. So instead of adding a new column, which I could do a duration and maybe add a new column, I'm actually going to transform this column. So you have the option, do I want to keep adding new columns, or do I just want to have one column and keep transforming that? And in this case, I've already added a new column, now I want to transform that. So I'm going to transform that and change the duration to be total years. So now when it adds up total years, you can see this value is going to change. This looks much more realistically like a birthday. Am I correct? So if you're born in 86, you should most likely be 33. I'd say that's about right. I was born in 87, so I just turned 33. So let's see, but I noticed that there's a bunch of decimals underneath here, and that's not what I want. So when I look up here again at the math, I see a rounding. So I'm going to go ahead and round down. So when I round down, it'll give me a value that's a whole number, and that's exactly what I want. There is the age that I want. Now, in the scenario, it told me I actually wanted age buckets. So there's a couple ways to do this. There's different columns you can add. I'm going to start by adding a conditional column because it's really like if they're in a certain age, I want them to be in, age bucket X. So if I add my conditional column, you'll see it brings up a GUI for you to easily use. And I want to call this column age group. So if their age is less than, okay, so I think the first one was 0 to 18. So if it's less than or equal to 18, then we're going to see 18 and under. If their age is less than or equal to, what was it, I think 35, then I'm going to say they are 19 to 35. If age is less than or equal to, and what's interesting about this is actually, usually you're like, okay, they're greater than 18 but less than 35. But the way that this age group works is it actually checks to see if this is true, and if it is, then it returns. So if it's less or equal to 18, if that's true, then it's going to return 18 or under. If it's not, then it continues. Then if it's less than or equal to 35, it's going to return this. And so that's why I only really have to write one side of the expression because it's going to go in that order. And so I think it was 50, so this is 36 to 50, and then, oops. If age is less than or equal to, what was it, 64, I guess I maybe, that's fine, we'll just do this way. I think I did one off, but that's okay for now. We'll do 51 to 65. And then else, if they're not any of those, then they're actually 66 and up. So I really wanted that to be 65, so we're just going to do 65. We're just going to do less than. Okay. So now I've got my age group, and I did notice that there are times when this can be null. And so I'm actually going to add a clause where the age is equal to null. And the thing about, usually we shouldn't have something like this, but if you're missing data and it's not there, you know, you may just want to have that case. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move up to the top, because how this works is when it checks to see if age is equal to something, it's already throwing an error when it's checking age, because age is null. So if we first do a check to make sure it's null, you know, we get that out of the way, and then we get the value that we want. So here's my conditional column. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And so now you can see this person's 33, they're in the age group of 19 to 35. This person's 64, they're between 51 to 64. You can see that they've now been put in the proper age groups. 35, oh, I put a plus sign, but it looks like it doesn't actually go up there. But, you know, I can easily modify that by just clicking the wheel and saying, and up. Oops. And then it'll be there. Okay, so now I've got my age group column there, so I can use it within my visualizations. Okay. So if I go home, I'm going to close and apply these changes. I do want to note that there are multiple ways to do things. So I did something using a conditional column. You may want to use a custom column or another way that you see that being used. You know, if you wanted to maybe do a switch statement, you know, that allows you to sort of create all of those if conditions and then, you know, have that output depending on the condition, you could do something like that. I like the conditional column if you're doing an if then, because it gives you that nice UI. You can also go into the advanced editor later and modify it as a pro dev as needed. So, you know, you can just modify as you need, which is really great. Okay, so this is applying the query changes. Like I said, a lot of times when it creates the connection and it's pulling that data, it just takes a little while. So, so let's see here. Okay, I am going to point out while this is loading that we have a Teams team for our Alumna Healthcare. And so the Teams team, when you create a Teams team, it automatically creates a workspace for you. And so this Alumna Healthcare workspace is what was created in that Power BI. And so this is that Alumna Healthcare workspace where we're going to upload our visualizations, and then we can access those directly in our Power App. So that's what we'll do later. Okay, but if I go ahead, I'm going to start adding visuals, right? Now I have all my data here. I've got my fields, I've got my visualization options, I've got my filter options. Let's go ahead and start adding things. So if I want a percentage breakdown by age group, I probably want to use a visualization that shows something like that, like a pie chart. You know, if I want a line chart, if it was time-based, you know, maybe even a bar chart would work for this, but I really want to use a pie chart. So I'm just going to select a pie chart. You can see it brings out, you know, sort of a skeleton pie chart. And what I want to know about is I want to know the count of contacts and what their age group is. So when I look at the fields available for contact, you know, in order to get a distinct count of contacts, I'm going to use contact ID because I know that's distinct per contact. And I'm going to bring this into the values. So if I drag it into values, you can see it automatically chose count because it knows that I want to get a count. And sometimes it'll bring up other things like sum or other, you know, mathematical formulas you can do on those numbers. And I actually want to do a count distinct. So I'm going to grab count distinct. And it just shows one big thing, right? Because I really only have values of patients right now. But I want to separate it depending on their age group. So I see that there's a legend here. I'm going to go ahead and bring age group over to the legend. And then you can see it splits my pie graph based off those age groups. So if there's unknown, if there's, you know, 36 and up. But what I forgot is that, you know, this is every single contact, and I really only want to show patients. So when I look at the filters, I can either apply filters on the visual, I can apply them on this page, or I can apply them on all pages. You can see right now I'm in page 1. I can add page report pages as I need, but you know, as you're adding filters, right now I really only want it to be on this visual. But in order to make it easier for you, if you had a filter you wanted on the entire page, you could just drag it right here and then it will apply to every single visual. But for now, what I want to do is I want to filter on the contact type. So I'll bring over the contact type display into my visual filter. And I can see that I can do a basic filtering I can also do some other advanced filtering, but for this will be fine because I know I just want to choose patients. So I'm going to select patient. When I select patients, you can see it narrows down a lot of the information because a lot of those people weren't actually patients. So now I see a pie chart that shows me the count of contact ID by age group. And if I want to change these titles or I want to do any of that, I can format the title directly. This format icon within your visualizations allows you to format what it looks like. Do I want a shadow or a border? Do I want, what do I want the details on these to be? Do I want it to show a value and a percentage? Like, what do I want to show, right? What color do I want that specific one to be? I can change it. Oh, it actually looks like just the text. But these can also be changed within the data colors themselves. So if I wanted to change that to a lighter blue, I felt that was dark. I think that has more contrast. That's easier to see. But I can modify the title directly. Or on the first tab, which is showing your fields, I can actually modify the name of this. So I can just say count of patients directly in here. And then everything that uses that value. See, it updated in the title itself. And it would update in any, if you had maybe a bar chart, it would update any of the axes as well if you had different names there. So now I have my visualization on the report. And, I could make a bunch more visualizations on this screen. I can resize as I want. But just for time's sakes, this is the only visualization I'm going to make today. Well, now I want to share it with my team and I want to embed it in that Power App. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it as webinar demo. So I save and then I want to publish. There's a nice publish button right here at the top. I can go ahead and I want to publish to Lamna Healthcare, not my personal workspace, because I want to share it with my team. So I'll select Lamna Healthcare and share that out. And then it'll publish, telling me a little bit more information about, do I want to do mobile layouts, just information. Oh, and it was successful. So cool. I can go ahead and head over to Power BI. I should maybe refresh this. And if I expand this, you can see that my data sets has this webinar demo and my reports also has a webinar demo. So when I click, the data sets, it's just going to show me my data. But if I show the report, it'll show me that visualization that I put on the report page. And if I wanted to pin this to a dashboard, I can go ahead and just pin this visual. There's no dashboard yet. So I'm going to call this my webinar dashboard. Oops. Here we go. So I'm going to pin to a new dashboard. And now I can see that under dashboards, I have this webinar dashboard. So if it says I can't find it. Let's just go to the dashboard this way then. Well, it looks like it's there. So you can see now I have this visual pinned to this dashboard. And if it weren't big enough, I can resize it. It looks like it changed my color scheme. So maybe I have to fix that. But yeah, I can resize it as needed on this dashboard just to make sure all the data I want is visible. So now I've got it on here. Well, now I want to embed this visual within my Power App. So if I go over to my Power App, I go to make.powerapps.com again. I'm just on the home page. I want to go to my apps, and I'm going to go into that AI Builder demo app that James was working on before. And I'm going to open that up. Hopefully he's closed it, otherwise it will be locked for editing, because unfortunately you can only have one person editing a Power App at a time. So that's good to know. So it should load up here in just a second. And so that's one important thing to note is if you create a report, in order to put the visualizations into your Power App, you have to create a dashboard. So I had this visualization in the report, but I needed to pin it and create a dashboard in order to access it within the Power App. So if I go back to the Power App, which seems to be almost unloading. Now you remember we've been working on this Power App. James just showed it for the AI Builder. We had created a report screen back in the day, and I had hooked it up as part of the navigation system on the navigation bar. So I'm going to use that report screen that we created, and I'm going to embed these Power BI tiles. So if I go to the report screen, you can see I actually already added one here, but I'm going to delete it just so, well, I want you to see how you can find it. So where would I go if I wanted to add a visual, right? I know I want to insert something. What am I inserting? I'm inserting a visual, a chart, right? Oh, I see that there's chart up here. So if I click on chart, on the bottom it says Power BI tile. So I'm going to select Power BI tile and it'll plop a tile right there on the page for me. And it brings up this data. So it's telling me, hey, connect to your data. What workspace do you want? Now remember, we put it in the Lambda Healthcare workspace. So I'm going to select that. I created that webinar dashboard, so I can select that dashboard and it'll find all the tiles available and it'll show me. So apparently the title of that one was just count of patients. So I'm going to select count of patients. And then you can see right here, it's now rendered within the Power App, and we have our analytics visuals that the doctor can use directly within their appointment. So that's really awesome. Now they have that data at the touch of their fingers. So, if I was in the home screen and I'm in an appointment, but then I want to see, the report information, I can select that reports and it will show me that Power BI visualization directly in the Power App. So that's a really easy way to embed your analytics directly in your application. Now anytime you add a visual, you will add a new Power BI tile. So if I had a second one to do, I would click another Power BI tile. I would choose probably the same dashboard and then a different visualization that I added to the tile. So that's how I would want to do that. And then as you sort of resize them, it'll resize within there. So just got to give it a second to re-render, but it'll resize. So there you have it. That is the Power BI demo. So I'll just recap sort of what we did here. Starting with the desktop, I went ahead and installed the desktop. I opened it up. I went to get data and I went to the Power Platform and Common Data Service. And after selecting that, I put in my tenant URL so that it could find the correct tenant and get the data from within there. When we landed here in Power BI, we went to transform our data. And in that contacts table, we added 2 new columns. So I added the age column by using, different date and duration and rounding methods. I also added an age group by adding a conditional column, but could have also invoked a custom column here if I wanted. So if I did invoke a custom column and you needed help on formulas, you can easily click this link and it'll tell you how to create those Power Query on formulas. And it also has, syntax checks embedded directly in there, which is really great. Okay, so once we sort of molded our data and got the age group that we needed, we applied and we closed and applied so that we could get that, that data here. We added a new visualization and added the proper fields. So you see the values we added were the count of patients using the contact ID. And then we used a legend on the side giving the age group information. And we made sure to filter it on patients only so we weren't showing practitioners. And then when we were done, we went and published to our workspace. And so when we went to our workspace, we could see here in Power BI, we had our report and we could pin our visual. And then once we pinned our visual, we could go directly into Power Apps and we could add that as a tile within our data. So that's how you would go connect to your sources, model your data, create some visualizations, and embed it directly within your Power App. So going back to just talk about what we covered today. We reviewed the custom and pre-built models in AI Builder, and then demonstrated how you can easily create and embed AI models in Power Apps using AI Builder. We also learned about the Power BI portfolio and how data flows can be used to integrate your data. And we used Power BI to connect your data, create visualizations, and then embedded them online and within Power Apps. Whew, it's been quite the 4 weeks, hasn't it? So we've covered a lot this series. It's been really fun. I hope you've learned a lot. Just to cover, what we've fully gone over and sort of our demo scenario. We created trial environments and added licenses and subscriptions to users. We showed you about navigating the admin centers from the Microsoft Admin Center to the Power Platform to even the Power Apps Admin Center. We built a Power App and we implemented some of the core functionality so you could see how to easily build a Power App yourself. And we created a custom control with a Power Apps component framework and was able to embed that within the Power App. We showed how you can automate your business processes with Power Automate. and how you can also automate some of that human interaction with Power Virtual Agents and how these can be used together for an even more impactful automated workflow. We also showed you how to analyze data and create visualizations within Power BI and how you can embed AI models into applications for speeding up your business processes. So we've learned a lot about the Power Platform, its 4 main products, and then some of the side pieces that also are super important within that platform ecosystem. And so if you'd like to contact us, please reach out on LinkedIn. You can find me, Kelsey Bloomquist. You can also find James Banford. And we'd love for you, if you're a partner, to check out the ISV Connect program. There's a lot of benefits here, and we can help you technically through as you're building your own business solutions. So I do want to turn it over to James just to say a few words and thank you for our time in the webinar. And then I think we'll take some questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelsey. Appreciate that. So, yeah, let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the questions that have been asked in the forum here, since we have a couple of minutes. So, moving on down the questions right here. So, someone asked in regards to the AI builder. What happens if there are several Trisha Potters? Would AI Builder be able to get the correct info on the file? So the forms processor is just kind of that. It's going to recognize the fields that you tell it on the form, and then from there, it's kind of up to you to determine how that logic is going to be saved to CDS, right? So in instances like that, where there are multiple Trisha Potters, you would need to have some sort of distinguishing field between the two when you upload it in order to upload to the correct one. So something like a telephone number, an address, something that distinguishes the correct Trisha Potter. And then you can add that logic as a part of your patch function, or your display function, whatever you're doing inside your Power App, to make sure that it's going to the correct one. So we didn't have those fields on the allergy form that we read in. I would think typically that would be something that would be needed, when we got those. But for the sake of our scenario, we just kept it pretty basic. All right. Let's see here. We also had a couple of Power BI questions. Let's see. Kelsey, question: what if your team is not listed in publish to your Power BI destination?
What if your team is not listed in publish? Oh, okay. I've actually had this problem before. What I had to do is I had to go to the Power BI service and click on that workspace. You know how I went to the Lambda Healthcare workspace within the Power BI service. I literally went into there, and then when I went to the desktop, I was able to see it within that publish option. So just make sure you've actually visited the Power BI service workspace before you're trying to publish to it from the desktop. I know it seems a bit weird, but it seems to be some sort of syncing issue. So just try all those things out, and then maybe close and reopen your desktop if it still hasn't synced properly.
Cool. Then kind of on top of that, another question we had on Power BI, do you need Power BI Premium to publish to that workspace? And Kelsey answered that one, that yeah, you would need Power BI Pro. If you have dedicated capacity for larger scale deployments, then you might need Power BI Premium for that one in particular.
Yeah, so for going online, you pretty much either need Power BI Pro or Premium. If you have larger scale deployments, you need that increased performance ability. You'd want Premium, but a lot of people go with Pro. And really only the person who's the person who's authoring and publishing it needs Pro, and then the people accessing it do as well. Awesome.
Okay. Someone asked, what is the backend technology for the allergy intolerances and patient information? So we use the Common Data Service as the backend for essentially the entirety of the demos that we put together over the last 4 weeks. CDS is not required. If you want to build a Power App, you can build a Power App with a different backend than CDS. You can use SharePoint, for instance. But for all of our demo scenarios that we have been using for these last couple of weeks, we've been using the Common Data Service.
Okay, and then there was a question, what if teams can't see the Power BI data? So I think I talked about, embedding the Power App, maybe even in Teams, and then the Power BI data is within that Power App. Maybe they're not allowed to see that data. So if Teams can't see the Power, it really depends on the person. So who is signed into Teams? Do they have access to that data that Power BI is trying to show? Then they'll be able to see it. Actually, it's the person who's refreshing. So if you're refreshing, that dashboard and that information, and you have that policy to do that, you'll be able to refresh the data and have that load. Now, for a user, depending on what they see, if they have access to that team, they'll be able to see that data because the person who loaded it had access to that data. So it's definitely something worth playing around with, the access restrictions and who can see what, and making sure that, however you implement it, that people seeing the data are only people you want to be seeing that data.
Awesome. Okay, I think we have time for one final question right here. Question was, could I save data from AI Builder into SQL Server instead of CDS? Answer is yes, you can. Power Apps and Power Automate, they support multiple different backends, SQL being one of them. So you could conceivably use AI Builder and then use Power Automate to create a flow to send that data or whatever extraction from AI Builder into SQL Server. So there's a lot of different methods that you can use to do that. Again, since we were showcasing the Dynamics 365 Healthcare Accelerator, we were using the Common Data Service for the entirety of our series spotlight here on Loma Healthcare and for all these different demos. Cool. All right. Well, I think that may do it for today. So, thanks everyone for joining our 4-part webinar on Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. We hope you got a lot out of it, and we hope you use this knowledge to start building apps in Power Apps, start building flows in Flow, and start building virtual bots in Power Automate, and start building reports in Power BI. There's a lot of options available to you, whether you're a citizen developer or a pro developer or really anyone in between. We hope that the Power Platform will provide you with a method to tackle those complex business solutions that you've been working on. So my name is James Bamford, and thanks again for joining us with these 4-part webinar series.
Thanks, James. I also just wanted to give a quick thank you to everyone who's come to watch these 4 webinars. It's been a pleasure teaching you all about the Power Platform and Dynamics 365. I really hope you can take these learnings and go build some powerful business solutions, and you can go teach others, right? You can teach a man how to fish, he'll eat for days. So we want to be able to teach everyone so that they can utilize the Power Platform to the best of their ability, and we can keep growing our ecosystem. So this has been really fun, and we'll be signing off now. Just wanted to give you one last look at the Power Platform cookies that hopefully one day I can bring to your door. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. So long.